My 27 female husband, 32, and I have been dating for 6 years and married for 4. We have a baby boy, and since we don't plan on having any more children, I told my husband that after breastfeeding I wanted to get my top redone, and I had surgery last year. My mother-in-law has always been sniffy because my husband is her only son. We've gone low contact over the years because she's overbearing with him and dismissive with me. Things got a little better when our baby was born, but after my surgery, it's like I wrote on my forehead, "Look at my boobs, I want to cheat on my husband." She's always implying that I did it for male validation. Yeah, your sons. That I'll leave my husband, that I look like a witch because I wear stuff that shows cleavage, that I could have gotten them a little smaller, everything. She also complained about my clothes and underwear a lot because no married woman with a child should dress like this. And see, that's what stung me because how could she know? I suspected she was going in my drawers, but my husband told me she could never. She commented on a cute set of lingerie that shows everything, and I was confused. I asked her how she knows I had it, and she said she saw it in the washing machine, but I prefer to wash my sets by hand so the lace lasts longer. Anyway, we recently changed our bedroom, and I had an idea to end this. When I was restocking my drawers, I used one in my vanity to put all of my husband's and mine's toys, a few sets, and a dirty letter he wrote to me once. My mother-in-law visited us a few times and said nothing, so I did feel bad for accusing her, but yesterday she was here with my sister-in-law, and my husband and I were in the kitchen cooking for them. We heard my mother-in-law screaming, calling us, and when we went to our room, they were standing next to my open drawer. I just snorted, looked at my husband and said, "See, she snoops." My husband got red in the face, berated my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law, and they both left after calling me indecent. My husband is mad at them, but he's mad at me too because he said I shouldn't have set a trap for his family and is saying we 3 need to apologize to each other. So maybe I'm the idiot? Not the idiot, OP. If your husband didn't want you to set a trap, he should have taken your concerns seriously instead of dismissing them. You tried to talk to him first. He didn't listen. Were you supposed just to ignore your suspicions that your overbearing mother-in-law was invading your privacy? Also, after the first comment about your breasts, that woman should have been banned from your house. Imagine going into someone else's home, criticizing their body, talking about their underwear, and insulting you. Holy cow, the audacity of that woman. Your husband needs to establish new boundaries with your mother-in-law, and he needs to have your back because this cannot keep happening. They really called you into your bedroom to berate you over what you keep in your drawers, right? The level of staying in your lane here is mind-boggling. Who makes comments on other people's intimate lives after going through their bedroom things? Husband needs to wake up. He's clearly used to this attitude and has never had to stand up to mommy dearest. How about simply asking your husband how was it setting a trap in a closed drawer in your own bedroom and then waiting for his reply? Husband's a coward. He's going to choose the path that keeps him out of the line of fire and the women more focused on each other than they are on him. Exactly. How is this a trap? You put stuff in a drawer, in your bedroom, in your own house. I'm really struggling to understand how a drawer in someone's bedroom constitutes a trap. I don't know about anyone else, but I learned when I was quite little that it was rude and wrong to go through anyone's drawers or even just into rooms you weren't invited into. Not the idiot. Your husband's a problem, though. On what planet was that your fault? His family shouldn't be allowed back into your house because they invade your privacy and shame you regularly. They do it in front of him, and his reaction is for you to apologize too. That's outrageous. You have every right not to be around people who demean you and violate your boundaries, and you do not want your children around them as well. I would go no contact instead of low. I, male teen, have an older brother, 20. 2 years ago, before going to college, he came out to our parents as gay, which made our dad disown him and cut all contact with him. He tried to force our mom to cut contact with him as well, but she refused, which led to a huge argument between them. After a couple of months of almost daily fights, our parents eventually decided to divorce. Soon after, Mom started feeling sick, and she was eventually diagnosed with breast cancer in stage 3. Dad was only paying alimony and refused to pay for my mom's treatment as well, and my brother obviously couldn't pay either because of his college taxes. My mom's disease progressed, and now the doctors estimate that she only has 1, max 5 years left to live. My mom accepted her fate, but I honestly started to resent my brother for this, as I didn't see the point of him coming out right before going to college in another city. It's not like our dad would be able to keep track of who he's dating once he moved there, and his coming out only caused problems in the long run. My brother told me on the phone that he feels so bad about our mom's situation, and he blames himself for not being able to help her, which made me tell him that he should blame himself for coming out to our homophobic dad, which destroyed our parents' marriage and probably even got our mom sick of cancer due to all the stress caused by the divorce. My brother told me that he was still hoping that our dad would come around and that he wouldn't have done it if he'd known it was going to cause our parents' divorce. But I told him that the harm was already done and it's his fault that our mom's sick now. He started crying and told me that I was an idiot for thinking that his orientation was what caused our mom's cancer, and then hung up on me. But honestly, if he hadn't come out, our parents wouldn't have divorced, and even if Mom had still gotten cancer in this case, at least Dad would have been there to pay for her treatment. Thus, he might have still been able to save her. So I really think my brother should have postponed his coming out for a couple more years at the very least. Am I the idiot? Your brother's gay gave my mom cancer. Are you serious? You're not just an idiot, you're the idiot. Seriously, what did I just read? Get over yourself, OP. You are the idiot, OP. Your brother had no way of predicting that your mom would need cancer treatments and couldn't afford them because of the divorce. It's cruel to blame him for something nobody could foresee. Your brother was finally in a position where he wouldn't have to live with your awful father, so he came out because it was finally safe. If you want someone to blame, how about your father, who blew up his own family and abandoned your mother because he got upset about your brother being gay? My God, stress doesn't cause stage 3 cancer. That is a delusional thought process, and it seems you might be just as awful as your father. I really hope you seek help because that is a horrific thing to put on your brother's conscience. Stress might be a small factor, but stage 3 means it progressed for a while, well before your brother came out. Instead of blaming your brother, look at the bigger picture of how your father is refusing to help your mother for choosing the love and happiness of her son than stand by a hateful man. You're blaming your brother instead of taking the time to support your brother, and rallying around your mom for what limited time she has shows how narrow-minded you are. Your brother is literally going to lose all the family he has when your mom passes. I'm 37 male, a little on the fence if I'm an idiot for what happened. My son, nearly adult, and I hit the beach yesterday for the first time in years. A few years ago, my son was in a car accident. Thank God he survived. However, he was left with some severe burns all over his shoulder and torso. He's had skin graft surgeries on more affected areas. It's been a long process for him and us. His scars are still pretty visible, so that's something he's been very self-conscious about. It took him lots of time in therapy until he could even look at himself in the mirror. It hurt a lot to see him so depressed and self-conscious about his body. My son is much more comfortable now. He can look at himself and take his shirt off to go swimming in our pool. The only thing he hasn't done is be shirtless in public, which he wanted to do, so we decided to have a beach day just for him and me. I'm guessing you can tell where this is going. Some kids were staring and pointing when we got close to them, but my son ignored them while we kept playing ball in the water. Later on, this lady comes to ask, saying it in a fake sweet voice, if my son would mind putting his shirt back on. It's not that she has a problem with it, but her family and all their little kids are there, and it's too visible to ignore. She said some of the kids are a little freaked out by it. My son, to my surprise, tells the lady they can look somewhere else instead of at his scars if it's such a big deal. She got irritated real fast. Now she's looking at me, expecting me to do something. But I pretty much said the same thing. If the kids are so freaked out about it, maybe now is a good time to show them not everybody is the same and it's nothing to be scared of. This lady would not let it go. So, to avoid my son hearing more than he needed to, we walked off away from the water, and then I gave this lady a piece of my mind. I told her that people like her made it so hard for him to be comfortable in his own body, so why doesn't she shut the heck up and get out of my face? If it bothers her so much, then she can get the heck out with her family. She told me I was such a disrespectful idiot because she came here asking politely, and instead I reacted with nothing but hostility. They did end up leaving. My son didn't want to be in the water anymore after that, but luckily he wasn't so bummed out anymore after a while. The thing is, I've never had an interaction with someone like that before. let alone cussed at a total stranger. Yes, I know how kids can be, so maybe her kids found it scary. But also, this whole thing made me go into protective Papa Bear mode, knowing what my son has gone through, so I'd like to know if I was an idiot for how I treated her. She was out of order to ask in the first place, but even if it was a polite request, spoiler alert it wasn't, then a polite answer of no should have been accepted. Instead, her reaction shows it was, in fact, a veiled rude demand, and she doubled down. And it was only after being firmly assertive you cussed at her. At that point, she deserved it. More to the point, your son deserved your backing. You weren't the idiot, you were awesome. That woman should be ashamed of herself, but you should be proud of your son who handled this beautifully. As a disabled person with a lot of friends whose disabilities and/or scars are more immediately visible than mine, it can be beyond exhausting to constantly be asked intrusive questions or expected to mind our bodies for the discomfort of others, not to mention incredibly dehumanizing. Yeah, she probably hoped you wouldn't shoot the messenger, but that failed, and rightfully so. I can tell her that her bathing suit is way too small for her body in a polite way, but that doesn't mean it's okay for me to say. Your son should be proud. It reminds me of the quote, "Scars remind us where we've been. They don't have to dictate where we're going." My husband, Ben, 30, and I, 31 female, have been together for 7 years. Every year on his birthday, I do Yes Day. I don't care about mine. Whatever he asks me within reason and respect, I do it. And it's just for one day. It's a tradition of ours, and Ben loves it, as he had a complicated childhood and adolescence that his grandparents were crazy and believed that birthdays were a way to get money out of people. Yes, at that level. Ben lived with them until he was 16, so he never actually celebrated his birthday. We had our first child less than 2 weeks ago, and my delivery was a caesarean. Although we have studied, practiced, etc., it's been extremely difficult as we're first-time parents. I'm in too much pain to sit up and bend over, so our daughter stays on his side of the bed, every other day, sometimes in a row, so he can pick her up when she wakes up. Saturday was his birthday. At dawn, our daughter started crying, and I asked him to take it, and he did, but while I was breastfeeding, I saw him taking the crib to my side, and when I asked, he gave his naughty smile and said, "Yes, stay." I confessed that I hadn't even remembered that, but I just said to go back to his side as this request was unreasonable, considering we had about 5 more hours in the morning. I felt he got annoyed, but he did as I asked. He's been cooking these days because, like I said, a lot of pain. I'm very sensitive to it. So at breakfast, he asked me to do something and I accepted. It was nothing impossible. Here's the part that started to make me angry. I had to change diapers. Yes, day. Change clothes. Yes, day. Bathe. Yes, day. I was really annoyed when he asked me to change the diaper again in his turn. I said he has hands and feet for that. He said, "Baby, come on, please, yes, day." And I replied with, "Yes, day doesn't exempt you from being a father for a day with a newborn and leaving your wife alone to take care of the daughter you and I made." He got angry and went for a walk for a few hours. And he didn't want to, but he helped with some things with our daughter. He didn't even want to order food delivery for dinner. I'm feeling a little bad because even though he doesn't say it, it's pretty clear that I ruined his birthday for him. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. He ruined his birthday for himself with his own unreasonable expectations. A birthday doesn't mean you're magically off of bed rest. You had major surgery 2 weeks ago. He needs to be a grown-up and deal with the fact that his birthday is on the back burner this year. Either he's an idiot for thinking this was a good idea or selfish. He's violated one of your fundamental tenets for this game. Remember, you said, "within reason and respect" in your second sentence? It might be time to retire this honestly childish game anyway. He's taking advantage and getting carried away. He's ruined the tradition after this year. It's not something I'd want to keep doing and remember from here on out. Nobody's fault but his own. Having a child changes your life, which often includes how you celebrate. It's time that this yes tradition comes to an end. It was fun while it lasted, but you're in a different stage of life now. Time to grow up and make new traditions. It's called life. The only constant is that it's always changing. The idiot ruined his own birthday. It's his first birthday as a father. He should be elated. I, female 26, am 5 months pregnant with a baby boy. This is my first one with my husband, 31, and we're both excited to expand our family. Once my belly started showing, my husband started constantly putting his hands on it. The problem is that I have an anxiety disorder and don't like to be touched, especially when it's sudden. He knows this, but he randomly puts his hand on my belly and refuses to remove it when asked. He does it all the time, sometimes when I'm asleep and also when we're with the family. He'd put his hand on my belly and sometimes even lifts my top. Every time I tell him to stop it because it's uncomfortable, he tells me this is his son too and he needs his bonding time. Last night was my final straw. We were out on the porch with my friends and he pulled me from behind and wrapped both arms around my belly. My friends were weirded out. I quietly whispered to him to let go, but he said, "Don't mind us," meaning him and his baby, "we're just here bonding." I had it. I lashed out and moved away from him while telling him to stop it. He looked at me confused, then turned around and walked back inside. He avoided talking to anyone for the rest of the gathering, then blew up on me when it was just us, and said I shouldn't have yelled at him for what he did as he thought it was completely normal. I told him I had already expressed how uncomfortable I was. He said he was my husband, and that he was meant to bond with his son and not me, and then told me to get over myself and stop acting like a sensitive little girl. I got mad and told him he was no longer allowed to do it, and he got angry and said that's not my call, and I can't act selfish and prevent him from bonding with his son. He then went to vent to his mom, and when I pointed out how wrong it was to do that, he told me I have no issue going to stay with my mom every time we fight, so what's good for the goose is good for the gander. I was speechless and had no response. Finally, he said I owe him an apology for lashing out at him in front of my friends like that. He said, "That's not your call. Excuse me. It's your body. He's treating you like a garden for his prize seed." I get wanting to bond with his son, but to disrespect you completely and disregard your wishes and own concerns? Therapy or divorce ASAP. How much do you think he would freak out if she told him that he doesn't even get to be in the delivery room if she doesn't want him to be there? LMAO. Not the idiot, OP. Your husband is stating that you've given up bodily autonomy by becoming pregnant. Very disturbing. OP, you still have rights to your own body even if there's another inside. If I were you, I'd start grabbing his balls and explaining that I'm just bonding with all the babies he's storing in there. I don't think it's weird for a man to want to feel the baby and try to make it more real, but your husband is acting like you're an incubator and that your feelings don't matter. That's not a good sign for the future.